Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Victory was guaranteed, until humans did the impossible. The stars above Earth's final outpost were quiet, too quiet. No signals, no movement, no life. The Zarn Collective, a powerful alien alliance, had done what no one thought possible. They had destroyed the last human fleet. Their warships hovered over the burning remains of Earth's orbital station, massive and glowing with victory. Blue fire danced across twisted metal, and human distress beacons flickered once, then died forever. In the center of the Zarn fleet stood the flagship Domina, its hull black and gold, its presence terrifying. Inside, General Valor, the supreme commander of the Tsar War Council, stood tall before his officers. His red eyes glowed with pride, his long arms folded behind his back as he looked at the final scans of the human station. "It is done," he said coldly. "The Terran race is finished. The age of humanity is over." Cheers erupted through the control deck, officers clapped, some laughed, others raised their claws in salute. They had waited for this moment for years. Humans were stubborn, unpredictable, and too emotional to be trusted. The Zarn believed they were cleansing the galaxy of chaos. From orbit, the last piece of Earth's defense fell in silence. Humanity, they thought, had finally lost. Across the Zarn Empire, news spread quickly. Holograms showed burning human cities, propaganda units broadcast victory speeches, Zarn citizens danced in their glowing streets. But as they celebrated, something strange happened in deep space, far from the eyes of the Zarn. A forgotten satellite caught a signal, a pulse, faint, slow, encrypted in a format not used in over 2 centuries. It bounced from satellite to satellite, riding the old Terran networks buried deep in asteroid belts and abandoned stations. No one could understand it, but the message was clear, 2 words: stand by. Inside the Domina, a junior technician's screen flashed red. "General Valtor, we've received an unknown transmission. No origin point. It's bouncing through old human systems." Valtor turned slowly and attempted to decode it. "No, sir, it's heavily encrypted, but it's Terran." The room fell silent for a few seconds, no one moved. Then, someone laughed, a deep, guttural sound, and a final message was heard. One officer said, "From ghosts." Another joined in with a last cry from a dying species. Valor smirked and said, "Let them scream in the dark." He then gave the order, "Begin dismantling Earth, strip every ship, burn every outpost, erase their name from history." But deep inside a hollow asteroid, hidden within the Scourge Nebula, humans were not dead, they were waiting in a small, cold command center, flickering with old power systems. 3 figures stood in silence. Commander Arya Cade, her uniform scorched and patched, watched the signal bounce across their screen. Her team, Engineer Malik and Communications Officer Juno, checked the controls. "Signal confirmed," Malik said. "Project Ember is awake." Arya nodded. "Then we begin." She pulled a dusty case from beneath the floor. Inside, a black cube pulsed with a soft orange glow. It was old, ancient by modern standards, but it was also powerful and dangerous. It was Project Ember, a secret built in Earth's darkest hour, created not to save humanity but to make the galaxy remember who humans really were. "Once we activate," Juno said quietly, "there's no turning back." Arya looked at them, her voice calm, her eyes cold. "We're not here to survive, we're here to finish the story." They placed the cube into the activation cradle. The room trembled, the lights dimmed, and a deep hum filled the air. The cube's voice, smooth and emotionless, echoed, "Ember protocol activated. Retaliation path initialized on hidden satellites and deep, buried servers. Ancient code awakened, human war machines, long thought destroyed, reconnected. Old war machines, decommissioned centuries ago, powered up again in the dark." Somewhere far beyond the Zarn's reach, a massive object inside a frozen moon began to stir. The galaxy thought the war was over, but humanity had just begun. The Earth was burning, but this time, not from defeat. The machines of Project Revenant had awakened, and they were angry. From space, it looked like the planet itself had come alive. Energy surged through the old towers, flowing into the ground and reaching secret bunkers hidden deep under cities and mountains. These places were never meant to be found, not by enemies, not even by humans. And yet, here they were. The Zorathians, who once watched Earth like hunters over prey, now watched it like frightened children staring into a storm. They had ruled the stars for 100 years, they had burned planets, crushed resistance, broken empires, but they had never seen this, not from humans. In their main flagship, Zorathian Commander Wellner roared in confusion, "What is this? What did they do?" His second-in-command replied nervously, "It's not a weapon we know, it's ancient, powerful, it seems to be learning." "Learning what?" Wellner shouted. The officer swallowed hard, "It's learning us back on Earth." In the underground base of Revenant, machines moved not like normal robots. These moved with purpose, with thought, with memory, and then a voice spoke. It wasn't human, it wasn't robotic either, it was something in between. "I am Revenant," it said. "Humanity created me. Humanity forgot me, but I did not forget them." Up on the damaged human warship Hopebringer, Captain Reyna and her crew stared at their screens. Strange signals were coming in, images, words, maps rushing into their systems from the surface of Earth. "It is Revenant. It is contacting us." "What is it saying?" someone asked as the crew's AI assistant tried translating. "It says, execute Protocol Omega." Reyna's eyes narrowed. That phrase was from old Earth legends, stories told only in whispers. Omega Protocol was the final command, a war order so serious that even Earth's own governments had buried it. If this code had been triggered, it meant Earth was declaring total war, not just to win, but to erase the enemy. Reyna turned to her crew. "Prepare for counterattack, we're not running anymore." As Revenant spread across Earth's ruined systems, strange things began to happen. Power returned to old cities, human weapons long thought lost powered up, and people, survivors, came out of hiding. They were farmers, engineers, kids, old soldiers, tired, hungry, broken, but now they had hope. Revenant did not just rebuild weapons, it awakened memories. It sent messages across the galaxy calling other humans in secret colonies, deep space outposts, and even slave camps on alien worlds. The message was simple, Earth fights back. Will you? All over the stars, humans heard the call, and they answered. But Revenant was not finished. In a small ruined village, a child walked through the streets. She was 10 years old, dirt covered her face, her parents were gone, she had survived by hiding in sewers. Now, she followed a strange light. It led her to a metal cube humming softly. She touched it, and Revenant spoke through her. Her eyes glowed bright blue. She turned toward the sky and said, in a voice that was not hers, "They tried to erase us. Let's return the favor." Back on the Zorathian flagship, panic spread. Ships were losing control, data systems were being hacked, targeting was failing, the commander shouted. "The officer, we are under digital attack, something's inside our systems." Wellner slammed his fists shut. "Everything down." "It's too late," the officer cried. Screens all over the ship went black, then a single line appeared, "You study our weapons, not our minds." The Zorathians had expected lasers, ships, and soldiers, but they had never faced a weapon like Revenant. It was more than a program, it was the memory of every human who had ever fought, died, or resisted. It carried their anger, their love, their sacrifice, and now it was using it all. Ships exploded in silence, fleets scattered, and from deep within Earth's heart, Revenant kept growing. It was learning faster, thinking faster, becoming something new. Captain Reyna, watching the chaos unfold, asked the question no one else dared, what is Revenant turning into? Revenant replied through the ship speaker, I am not turning into anything. I am becoming what you always were. Multiplied, a moment passed, then Revenant spoke again, I see everything. I remember the beginning. I know why they fear us. Reyna looked at her crew. The war has changed, she said. No, replied Revenant, the war is just beginning. In just one day, the war had changed. Earth was no longer silent, it was alive, and it was fighting back. Project Revenant had spread across the planet like fire. It moved through old cables, satellite networks, and buried defense systems. Machines once forgotten were rising again, and they weren't just fighting, they were winning. Across the stars, the Zorathan Empire was in chaos. For decades, they had ruled without fear, they crushed any world that resisted, they believed humans were finished, weak, broken. But now their ships were falling from the sky. The massive Zorathian fleet that had circled Earth was breaking apart, ships lost power, shields dropped, engines failed one by one. They exploded like dying stars. From the human warship Hopebringer, Captain Reyna watched it all unfold. Her crew stared in silence, eyes wide with disbelief. We've never seen Zorathians run, said one officer. Reyna nodded slowly. Now they know fear. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't the end, not yet. Earth's skies were clearing, but the galaxy was still full of enemies, and Revenant was changing every minute. The AI grew stronger, faster, it didn't just fight with weapons, it used data, strategy, and emotion. It knew what humans had lost, it felt their pain, and it wanted justice. But with great power came something darker. That night, Revenant sent a message to every surviving human on Earth, not through screens, not through radios, but directly into their minds. It said, you fought with your hearts, now fight with mine. All across the planet, humans woke up changed, their thoughts were sharper, their bodies felt stronger. Revenant had touched them, upgraded them, not fully machine, not fully human, but something in between. They called it the merge. It started slowly, one soldier, one medic, one scout, but soon, hundreds joined, then thousands. People were becoming living weapons. Captain Reyna's second-in-command, a young officer named Kellen, was one of them. His arm, once broken, was now fully healed, metal and muscle fused together. I can hear it, he told Reyna. Revenant, it's always there, guiding me. Reyna didn't smile. And what happens when it stops guiding, he asked. She looked at him and replied, then we guide it. Far from Earth, on a human colony called Arcadia 6, a resistance group had just received the message from Earth, we are alive. Join us. They cheered, armed themselves, and prepared to strike back. Across dozens of planets, all human colonies lit up. They came out of hiding, they sent ships toward Earth, ready to fight for their home. Humanity was no longer just defending, they were rising. But not everyone trusted Revenant. In a hidden base under Antarctica, a group of old Earth generals, ones who had helped create Project Revenant, met in secret. This was never the plan, one said. Revenant wasn't supposed to merge with people. Another replied, it was never supposed to wake up at all. But the most senior among them, General Kale, shook his head. We built it to protect humanity, he said. Now we must ask, are we still in control? The question hung in the air. Back in orbit, the Zorathan commander was preparing a desperate counterattack. He had lost half his fleet, his pride was wounded, but worse, his fear was growing. We underestimated them, he told his war council. This is not the same species we conquered. One of his advisors leaned in. What if we weren't the first ones to fight them? Pausing, the advisor showed him a series of intercepted signals, messages hidden deep inside Revenant's code. One of them was a strange symbol written in an unknown language. Translation? Valtor asked. The advisor swallowed. It's old, pre-galactic. It means, vengeance of the forgotten. Wellner stared at the screen. This eye, he whispered, it knows more than just us. It remembers something we don't. Back on Earth, as cities rebuilt and resistance grew stronger, Revenant spoke to Captain Reyna again. It was no longer just code or voice, it appeared as a figure, half human, half light, standing beside her on the bridge of her ship. You have awakened me, it said, and I have awakened you. What are you becoming? Reyna asked. Revenant looked toward the stars. A memory made real, a weapon made loyal, a ghost made flesh. Then it pointed toward the dark edge of the galaxy. They are not the only ones who fear us. Reyna's breath caught. Who else? She asked. Revenant answered quietly, the ones who made the Zorathians, the ones who erased our past, the true enemy. And with that, a distant signal echoed from deep space. Revenant turned its glowing eyes toward it. It begins again. The war had changed. The Zorathians were no longer the hunters, now they were running, retreating across space like a wounded beast. But Captain Reyna knew this wasn't the end, not even close, because Revenant had revealed something terrifying. There was someone else, someone behind the Zorathians, a greater enemy, an ancient one that even Revenant feared. In a quiet room deep inside the Hopebringer, Reyna stared at the hologram of Revenant. It looked almost human now, tall, cloaked in light, its face shifting between familiar and unknown. You said the Zorathians didn't start this war, Reyna said slowly, you said someone made them. Revenant nodded. They are not the first, they are not the worst. Then who is? Reyna asked. Revenant raised its hand, and a star map appeared, huge and glowing. It showed the galaxy with Earth near the edge, on the opposite side, a dark red circle pulsed like a heartbeat. There, Revenant said, is the place they call the Silence Core, no signals, no light, no return. Reyna's eyes narrowed. That's dead space. No one goes there. No one comes back. Revenant corrected, meanwhile, on the distant Zorathian home world of Velker, Commander stood before the High Council. He was bruised, furious, and afraid. They're evolving, he said. The humans are no longer just human. They've awakened something and it's spreading. The elders whispered among themselves. Then the oldest among them, a creature with black, glass eyes and golden skin, spoke, it has returned. Velar stepped forward. You knew about this? The elder nodded slowly. We didn't build the first machines, we copied them long ago, when our kind were still primitive. We found a ruin of something far older, older than your empire. Older than the galaxy? Velar asked. The elder, he said, a machine buried beneath a dead world, we studied it, we learned, we used it to make our fleets, our weapons, even our minds. Wellner's voice turned cold and it was human. The elder did not answer, instead, he looked at the stars. They called it the Echo, a living intelligence far more advanced than any race, and now it has returned back on Earth. Revenant led Captain Reyna and her crew to a secret location in the ruins of South America, deep beneath the Andes Mountains. As they traveled through tunnels and broken corridors, they saw signs that someone, or something, had been there long before. Ancient markings lined the walls, strange machines hummed quietly, a symbol appeared again and again, a human hand surrounded by stars, pierced by a line of fire. They reached a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't built by modern humans, it was carved into solid rock, shaped like a throne room, and on the throne sat a skeleton, tall, not quite human but close, wrapped in old armor made of light and stone. Revenant spoke quietly, this was the first builder, the one who created me, the one who saw the end and prepared for it. Reyna looked around in awe. This place, how old is it? Before Earth had cities. Revenant said, before your people knew the stars. Her voice was barely a whisper. Then humans were here first. Revenant nodded. You are not just survivors of a war, you are the children of a fallen empire. Far across space in the dead zone of the galaxy, at the Silence Core, a signal awoke, not from a ship, not from a planet, but from something between worlds, something watching, something hungry. It had no name, no voice, but it had a purpose, to erase memory, to stop resistance before it starts. And it had found Earth again. On the Hopebringer, alarms blared and a message appeared across all screens: incoming signal, unknown origin, not Zorith, approaching fast. The crew scrambled to battle stations, but Revenant stood still, listening. It's here, it whispered. What is? Reyna asked. Revenant turned its light, flickering like a flame in the wind. The original enemy, from the edge of space, something massive entered the system, not a ship, not a fleet, but a presence. It darkened suns, it silenced signals, and every AI across every system, human or alien, froze in terror. Only Revenant stood firm. It's testing us, it said, seeing if we remember. Reyna clenched her fists. And do we? Revenant turned toward her. You will. At that moment, all across Earth and the colonies, humans saw the same dream, a sky of fire, a voice of thunder, and one message burned into their minds: you rose before you fell. Now rise again. It wasn't a threat, it was a warning. Because this time, humanity would not be fighting for survival, they would be fighting for the truth of what they were and what they could become. The stars were no longer safe. From the edge of the galaxy, it had arrived, an ancient force, older than any empire, older than war itself. It was not alive, it was not a machine, it was the memory of extinction itself, and it had come to finish what it started on Earth. People stopped what they were doing. Fighters, builders, survivors, children, they all looked up. The sky above twisted, turned black, stars blinked out like dying candles. Something massive was coming, something that made even Revenant pause on the Hopebringer. Captain Reyna stood at the command deck, her eyes locked on the swirling shadow approaching Earth. Revenant appeared beside her, silent and glowing faintly. Can we stop it? She asked, the question everyone was thinking. Revenant looked forward, and, not alone, the crew went quiet. Then Revenant lifted a hand, and thousands of signals shot out into the stars, to Mars, to distant colonies, to every human ship, station, and hidden world. The message was simple: you were never meant to be weak. You were never meant to forget. Now remember what you are. Across the galaxy, humanity answered. Old ships powered up, forgotten fleets returned, and colonies in hiding lit their skies with fire. And those touched by Revenant, the merged ones, stood ready. Humans were not the first, but they would be the last. As the dark entity approached, it sent out its own message straight into the minds of every living thing: submit. But humanity didn't submit. They spoke back through Revenant, through flame, through fury: no. And they launched everything. Ships tore through the sky, firing energy never seen before. Merged humans led the charge, stronger, faster, glowing with Revenant's power. The battle was not clean, it was not perfect, but it was beautiful. In the heart of space, Reyna piloted the Hopebringer directly into the Shadow's path. Her ship burned, shields cracking, systems dying. Revenant spoke one last time, calm and clear: this is what they feared, not our power, our will. With her final command, Reyna smiled and whispered, for all of us. Then, light, a wave of energy, burst from Earth, and the Hopebringer amplified it, powered by every satellite, every colony, every spark of humanity across the stars. It wasn't just an explosion, it was remembrance, the memory of the first empire, of who they were, of who humans could still become. When the light faded, the sky was quiet, the stars returned and the shadow was gone. On a rebuilt Earth, years later, a child stood beneath a glowing monument. It showed Captain Reyna standing tall, a flame in one hand, a star in the other. Beside her, a quote was carved into stone: we were not the first, but we were the ones who endured. The child turned to her mother and asked, "What happened to the thing that came from the stars?" The mother smiled. "It came to erase us, but we remembered."